let's just start with how you been.
I've been all right, you know. Um, to be honest with you, it's been quite good. Better than I expected. Um, I think people actually wanted to not only learn something new, but I don't know, I feel like people just wanted to be outside. They wanted to live. So it might have been a good moment for me to, put my business out there and put what I do out there. So I do walking tours. So I started a company called Black Montreal Experiences where, I verbalize the history of the Black presence in Montreal, presence that existed for the past 300 years, let's say, or in Canadian history, 400 years of Black history that's, either being purposely omitted or, erased. So I thought it'd be really interesting for the people to, not only learn about it, but get to see it on site. So that's why I crafted my tour. And then I proposed it to the people. But prior to this summer, I've been doing it for the past 3 years as a tourist experience for um, travelers. Yeah. My sentiment is that there's a narrative out there that, when it comes to Canadian history, that it has to do with the French, the English, and the indigenous people. With that said, they don't really talk or they choose not to talk about, the Black presence here, which I find kind of hypocritical because, Montreal wouldn't be what it is without, its Black soul, right? As we're speaking right now, Montreal is known as an international jazz city. And, this comes from the very neighborhood of Little Burgundy and St. Henry in the Southwest. And, they always fail to mention that. I just never could relate to the history here. And I was like, um, there has to be much more than that, more than what we see, right? And so I started to get interested in, uh, local history and what took place here. And, that led me to, local historians such as Dorothy Williams, Paul Famu Brown, Frank Mackey, Dr. Afro Cooper, understanding that it's not so much about the presence, but it's about the erasure. And I believe that if they erase what took place here, or the people that, to a certain extent, um, were part of the foundation of, this society, what does that say about us living here right now, today? Are we still going to exist tomorrow? Are we just, living, paying bills, and dying? I received some messages. Québécois. Hey, tabarnak, là, qu'est-ce que t'essayes de faire, toi, là? So I thought it was really interesting for them to, I don't know if they're scared that, there's a new door that they might not have seen that's now open. But that comes with the perks, that comes with, the work and the job. So I'm okay with that. We know what type of work we're living into. I say subconsciously because I believe some people may not be aware that that's what they're doing. But most definitely. And I also think that it's a little hypocritical, considering the fact that Montreal nowadays, um, hosts the largest jazz festival in the world, right? And this jazz festival in question was started by a Black man by the name of Dudu Boissel. And he still hasn't gotten any recognition for it. So that's why I say subconsciously yes and no. You know, they'll block it until it makes sense for them, until they can profit off of it. That's why I do what I do too. As if we exist, then we have to show that we exist. I am trying to craft something specific for, because I've been approached by high schools and CGIPs and, universities. And what I'm trying to do is I want to craft something specifically for the school. So even like the last tours I had were with Polyvalent Saint Henri. So I feel like the kids actually want to know more, but we have to find different ways to, to reach them, because it's a new day and there's new ways of doing things that maybe back in the days it was obvious for us, but it's not obvious for them. But I do want to reach a younger demographic, definitely, because what I do, if the youth is not involved, then I'm not saying it doesn't have a purpose, but if the youth is not involved, then this there won't be a future if there's no youth involved. Ignorance, ignorance. As I think people do a lot of, people rely on ignorance a lot. I think ignorance is to me it's really scary because people can have studies or a lot of money, but when they're ignorant, it affects the policies or the people around us, the neighbors, whatever. Um, I believe ignorance is really dangerous. And I think every day when I wake up in the morning, I try to, as much as I can, to distance myself from anything that may sound or look ignorant, according to me, of course. I want to start working on my first book. I would want to work on a book that, where I could, talk to the youth and not in ways that, for them to, I would want to write a book that's easy to read, but that could, contextualize, what they're going through, and because this, you know, as a youth, when I was a teenager here, I felt like no one really paid attention to us unless me. I was a ball player, so it wasn't that bad. But I had friends that they're not good in schools, they're not doing sports, they're not rappers, so they trying to get a little bit of attention from from the streets, and I definitely want to write a book, but documentary and all that, I believe that's coming too, but a book for me first, then I would want to do the rest. You spend your time playing ball, so you practice, you go to school, you practice, but then, you know, some of your friends, they started to work, at McDonald's, so they have a little bit of change in their pockets. Or now, he has a driver's license, but you played, you practice a lot. And then when you don't make it, you're a little bit behind the process. So then you have to catch up. And the easiest way to catch up at time is unfortunately, being involved in the streets. And again, I don't want to talk bad about the streets. The reason why I don't want to talk bad about the streets is because if we had better, opportunities for those kids, um, maybe they would need to be in the streets, but at the same time, it's that peer pressure. We teach our youth to look fly before teaching them how to make money. I don't want to talk bad about the streets. The reason why I don't want to talk bad about the streets is because if we had better, opportunities for those kids, um, maybe they would need to be in the streets, but at the same time, it's that peer pressure. We teach our youth to look fly before teaching them how to make money, right? So that they start, like the wealth gap. They don't even understand that there's a major wealth gap. You want to dress like their favorite rappers, but the rapper doesn't pay for the clothes. He's being sponsored, and just a different level of understanding that we unfortunately we didn't really take time or didn't really understand how to verbalize it to our youth. And when I say this, because me, I was a victim of that too. So that's why to me it's really important. No, man, Little Burgundy is one of those neighborhoods that um they set them back. They set them back. Little Burgundy was ahead of what was going on in Montreal, and that's what's really going on. Because if Montreal nowadays is known as an international jazz city, and the jazz festival that we see nowadays started in 1981, the original one started in 1978. But the first jazz clubs here in Montreal, they started in around 1897 or early 20th centuries. Excuse me. So it's like 80 years gap. And now, we're known as an international jazz city after we've gentrified a neighborhood that gave us this, jazz culture. The neighborhood that gave us, Oscar Peterson, arguably the best pianist ever. And he's not even that celebrated here. Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, Cab Calloway, Sammy Davis Jr., Louis Armstrong, just to name a few, that used to come to Montreal. Some of them lived in Montreal for a few years. Some of them stayed in Montreal, worked in Montreal. But Little Burgundy has this culture that's similar to, Harlem or, I don't know, like, an historical black neighborhood, and they took that away from us. They took that away from us. And now, when people come to Montreal and they come to the International Jazz Festival, the city doesn't produce jazz acts anymore. The neighborhood that produced them got destroyed.